Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society, bringing you our nightly update regarding the tropical basins across the world, and we've got a lot to talk about here tonight. We've got threats going on and potential threats on the horizon. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, we're going to do a ridiculously deep dive on the Atlantic Basin tonight. I want to make sure that we get ahead of some of the potentially scary models that are going to come out, especially with some of the deterministic runs. So, we now have Invest 91L. Currently has a 60% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. If you will notice how this developmental area has more gotten a little bit further to the south here this evening, and that is drawing some concerns, no question about it. As we could see, now, if you remember when we've been checking this throughout the week, the wave was forecast to move across the main development region at approximately 15 miles an hour. And now that has changed quite a bit. As you can see here, environmental conditions are favorable for additional development of the system, and a tropical depression is likely to form by this weekend as it moves slowly westward at 5 to 10 miles an hour across the eastern and central tropical Atlantic. This reduction in forward speed has and can change the long range forecast track dramatically from what we have seen with some of the previous runs. This has been trending slower and slower. So one thing that I want to do here tonight, like I said, we're going to do an absolute deep dive on this. So using Cyclonic WX here, one thing that I do want to show folks is an image here of Invest 91L. Now, as we can see here, we're running the loop, and I've got this on the water vapor. Now, the drier air associated with this are our darker colors, and our brighter colors are associated with moisture. So, as you can see, we already have that great amount of dry air just to the west and to the northwest of Invest 91L. This dry air is critical. Okay. Outside of that, we do have spaghetti plots on it. As you can see, we do have the hurricane specific models. We have the HMON here, HWRF here, halves A, halves B. Halves B is ridiculously slow. It's still way back here as to where halves A is up here. But for the most of the rest of the models, we're waiting we're waiting on the 0Z runs of everything, and that will at least give us a much better idea now that we have an Invest tag. What we have here is the ship's output diagram. This is for Invest 91L. Now, what we are looking at here, move my crayons over here. What we're looking at here are these two boxes in particular. Now, notice that we have our 500 to 700 millibar humidity noted by this green line right here. Now, when we get it into this area here, we do have it representing somewhere in between 50 and 60%. All right, tropical cyclones don't necessarily like the dry air environment of 50 to 60%. They would prefer more around the lines of about 70 to 80%. And so this is maybe a little bit of an inhibitor, and I will show you why here when we run the halves model. Our sea surface temperatures, we are fine. If we look at what the ship's forecast is calling for, the ship's forecast is calling for an increase in our wind speed in knots, as noted right here with this blue line shooting upwards. Our shear, this is a critical component here. As you can see, a low reduction in shear, then maybe a little bit of moderate shear, but nothing that gets us too concerning. Maybe a little bit of a pop right here as we get into, getting out maybe about 6 days, but that remains to be seen. If we look at our upper graph, the oceanic heat content, as denoted by this line here, is going to increase on its track further and further to the west. This line here is our 200 millibar upper level divergence. So what that means is the air in the extreme upper levels up here at our 200 millibar level at approximately, we'll say about 40,000 feet or so, right here, right around where, just above commercial airline tracks and paths. If we were to compare that, the divergence part is to where air rises up and then escapes. It allows for rising air. You don't have convergence to where the air is coming together. You've got the air that is allowed to spread out. That upper level divergence is forecast to increase and stay pretty decent as we get further and further out. So our really only inhibitor right now is this area right here with our dry air. Okay, now that we've discussed that, let's take a look at some simulated radar here from HAV's A model. Now, as I run this forward, you will note that there is definitely a swirl in the cloud cover, and well, it's just the convection, but it looks good and then it falls apart. It looks good, then it falls apart. And it looks good, and then it falls apart. And then it looks good again, and it falls apart. You may ask why. So we're going to go back to hour 3, and we're going to pop this to the 500 millibar relative humidity level. Now, many of you long-term watchers know that we show the 500 millibar relative humidity on a nightly basis compared with the 700. Well, this is a little bit more of a zoomed-in look where HAVS is concerned, and watch what happens. It tries to get itself organized, boom. Dry air. Tries to get itself organized again, boom, dry air. Entrainment, infiltration. It keeps puncturing the overall system itself, and the dry air is choking things off and not allowing for convection to then build in and around the core of the system. Now, if we compare this to HAVS B, we will run the radar so everybody can see exactly how the convection acts and how it tries to consolidate. Now, HAVS B is a little bit stronger than A, and as you can see, it begins to organize, and then it kind of doesn't, and then it tries to organize, and it kind of doesn't. And then it starts to really look like it's getting its act together, and then it doesn't. We're still keeping a good amount of convection, and we're dropping pressures, but it's not able to get itself, very, very organized. And if we look at the 500 millibar humidity on HAVS B and compare that to what we've seen with A, as you could see, it starts to organize, and then here comes a little bit more of that dry air because of the low pressure is starting to impact the surrounding environment. So it is picking up the stronger it tries to get, and the lower the pressures become, and the stronger the winds and the rotation is, the more dry air this thing wants to try to entrain. I can find this to be a very plausible scenario, which would then in turn help to keep the storm weak and not allowing the storm to gain the latitude that we once had seen in previous runs over the last few days. Now, instead of starting with our deterministic runs tonight, we are going to start with the ensembles. And there's a reason why I want to do this, because I know that some of the deterministic runs are looking kind of scary. And when we now have an area of invest, so we can kind of try to hone in on it a little bit. But the models that we are looking at right now and the models that are being shared across social media were models that were run and initiated before the area of invest was tagged on 91L. So the models themselves are going to have a great amount of uncertainty still remaining, trying to predict where the circulation may try to be, congeal, and then eventually develop. Now, one thing that I really want to show everybody here, and I'm going to zoom in on the southwestern Atlantic, there are 50 ensemble members with the Euro. Now, we're going to go through the ensemble members. This is the Euro Legacy. And now when we get done with the ensemble members here, before we get to the deterministic run, I am going to take you tonight on a deep dive through each Euro ensemble to show you exactly how much uncertainty exists out here tonight. So it is too early to make any type of determination. The only thing that I've got pretty good confidence in is for the folks here in the Lesser Antilles, the Leeward Islands, maybe getting over into the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico. Y'all need to keep a very close watch on the progress of Invest 91L. That's the one thing I am absolutely 100% confident and certain about. But if we look at these ensembles, we note that there is still this more northerly component when we get out to 10 days. But I'm going to show you something here into fairy tale land, and we're going to go to day 12. So as you can see here, day 10, day 12. Some of these more westerly members don't continue the northerly track. It's all going to depend upon its intensity at that point. Please keep in mind that Hurricane Aaron sucked out a lot of the oceanic heat content out here between Bermuda and the United States East Coast. While the water temperatures there do support tropical cyclone development and intensification, they're not very deep. But we're getting a signal that this may not be a quote-unquote fish storm. It's not set in stone yet. Again, these are ensembles that are trying to depict on something that wasn't even tagged in Invest yet. So as tomorrow, these ensemble runs will look a lot different and be a lot closer together, especially where the Invest area was at the time of initiation. So if we look at the Euro, we don't have 50 lines, folks. And I will show you them individually here momentarily. If we compare that with the Euro AI, as you can see, the Euro AI does not have much for development at all with Invest 91L. And if it does, it draws up and pulls to the north. A few of the members, a small little grouping of 3 or 4, try to drive it off into the Caribbean, go over Hispaniola, and then reemerge. But that is, overall speaking, it's not very much in the probability aspects. But the Euro AI, there's nowhere near 50 lines. I'll even zoom in. It's not even close to 50 lines, folks. So the Euro AI is hinting at maybe even development may not occur, though I do believe development of 91L will happen. If we compare this all with the GEFS and we look at it, Some of these members stay quite a bit further to the south and potentially impact folks here into the islands. Some of these members get out quick. Some of the members kind of split the difference. There's a lot of uncertainty in these ensembles. All right. And we also have a signal getting down here into portions of the Western Caribbean. As this trough and frontal boundary drags down, we could see some heavier convection here into the Western Caribbean that may try to develop into something tropical, along with an area of vorticity cut off from the frontal boundary itself. If we compare this all with the Google DeepMind and we run this forward, I have the Google DeepMind and its older model on here represented. I do not have the Euro on. If we were to highlight this, as you could see, the Google DeepMind does have some that get it into the eastern and potentially try to get it into the central portions of the Caribbean. Those fail to exist once it gets to about Aruba. They pretty much die right there. If we get, for the majority of the tracks, if they do develop it at all, bring it up and turn it to the north. So there is going to be some, discrepancies as we go forward. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to highlight each individual ensemble member from the Euro. This is going to take just a minute, but what we're doing is we're paying attention to this upper graphic. The lower graphic is of the Pacific. The top graphic is of the Atlantic. You will note that this is mean sea level pressure anomalies. Okay, so if we get these pink colors, as noted here, these are lower pressures, mean sea level pressures, than these are the anomalies. If we go the other direction, which you will see in some of them, we will see some yellows and some oranges. The pinks are what we are looking for as far as tropical cyclone development and its location. So this is the control model of the European ensembles. This is what we're going to get primarily with our Euro operational run, is this control feature. Okay, now, if we start running them individual ensemble members, as you can see here with number one. Number one has a developing system off the coast of Florida, another one out here off the coast of the Bahamas. We get Invest 91L. We get another area of interest coming off of the African mainland. Eastern Pacific goes crazy. Number two is completely different from number one. Take a look at number three. How about number four? Number five. What I'm trying to highlight here is the ridiculous. Look at number seven. Number seven is like, what tropics? This goes out 15 days. Number seven's like, oh, we don't know what you're talking about. We give you nothing. Number eight. Number nine. How about 10? 11. I'm showing this to everybody tonight to highlight the major differences between each of the ensemble runs and showing that not all ensemble members, for one, not all of them develop it. And then on top of that, they are widely different solutions. Okay? I mean, here we are at 24, 25, 26. Here comes just an absolute, I almost cussed. This one's ridiculous. This one is absolutely ridiculous. Number 27 is like, all right, the hell with all of you in the southeastern United States. Bermuda, we didn't forget you either. This was number 27 is like revenge for Aaron. Like, you remember all those areas that I missed? Well, I'm going to hit both of them simultaneously. Watch this. 28, 29, 30. I mean, just look at the differences, folks. So when you look at some of these folks out on social media and they're showing one deterministic run, keep in mind that the ensembles exist. And if the ensembles are widely varied like what we're looking at right now, and finally reaching the end of number 50, I mean, at the end of the day, the control is this. The mean average, we don't have the mean average yet. They're still running it. But the control, I mean, really? So right now, it's too early to determine exactly what this thing is going to do. That's really what my entire point of showing every single one of those individually is, that we do not have a coherent signal even within their own ensemble members. Now, you're not expecting to have, everything line up right on top of one another, but you would expect to have a little bit more of a coherent signal. So there's a lot of uncertainty. If we now go and shift over to our deterministic runs, we have the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. This represents the 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity, which is approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. If we run these two deterministic and operational models forward, there is something that I have got to point out. We're 48 hours out. James, remember the thing that I told you about to help increase uncertainty to the track and just really throw things off? This is Invest 91L. Right here. What's this? What's that right there? That is another blob of energy and a potential area of vorticity. Now, I'm going to go straight to Earth now. This right here is Invest 91L. This is that other little pocket of vorticity. So if we know 91L is here and this other little pocket of vorticity is off to the southwest, we're going to go back to the satellite and we're going to look. There is Invest 91L. There's this little other pocket of interest. Now, we don't have anything on this right here. But if this, as this comes across like this, and this is running up like this, these two may meet somewhere down the line. Not that it wasn't already difficult enough because we didn't have a developed system, but, let's throw something else into the mix. Let's get back to our vorticity model. We'll clear that. We'll erase that. Now we're going to run this forward. And as you can see, 72 hours, 96 hours, and look what happens. The one area combines with the other. This could lead to an increase in vorticity, an increase in spin. It may not phase properly. It may. Yeah. Hooray. It may delay it. It could cause it to rotate further back down to the southwest. It could have a small bit of a Fujihara effect to it because of the fact that neither one of them are well developed. So here we are 5 days out. The Euro is still a little bit faster than what the GFS is. The GFS is obviously a little bit more organized. The Euro on approach, as you can see, poof, day 7. Pretty much almost an open trough at this point. Maybe not even a developed system. The GFS, on the other hand, well, that's a different ballgame. Now, we run that, and that runs right through the islands like a damn buzzsaw, cuts to the right or cuts to the left, because the high pressure is building back in, the low pressure did not, or the trough is not really interacting with it. It is just a damn mess. a lot of uncertainty. But as you can see, the euro's like, what are we talking about? You know, by the time we get to day 7 and it crosses into the Caribbean, pretty much just a remnant, wave pocket trough at that point. If we compare these both to our humidity, now remember, we looked at this with the halves model earlier in a more zoomed in close up look. We have the euro on the left and the GFS on the right. We have the 500 millibar level here on the top 2 graphics and the 700 millibar level on the bottom 2 graphics. 500 millibar level is right here at our 500 level at around 18,000 feet or 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. Our 700 millibar level is about 10,000 feet or approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. Okay, now if we run this forward, we already know by what halves was showing that every time that it tried to get itself somewhat organized, it ingested more and more of that drier air. We know that the euro shows a similar feature. Take a look here. We're 5 days out at this point. The euro don't have much at all. Maybe a little bit of a weaker signal down here into the lower levels. The GFS, on the other hand, has a well-developed system, but still in the 500 millibar level, it is surrounded by a ton of dry air. If I were to take this forward, we're going to go out to day 7. By day 7, we know that the euro, as far as its vorticity and its spin, pretty much died. The 500 millibar level still has moisture, but we're not seeing the same amount of moisture in the lower levels. All right, the storm itself is losing its coherence at the surface and starting to fall apart. The GFS, on the other hand, has a well-defined signature, 500 and 700 millibar levels with some dry air in the vicinity, but not enough like what we see here with the euro. Completely different. If we were to run this now out to the 10-day mark, as you could see, the euro still wants to have just a little bit of moisture in the mid-level associated with it and a little bit of moisture here associated at the 700. We'd still have to watch it. The GFS, on the other hand, has still a coherent storm that is at the 500 millibar level trying to draw some of this dry air up, around, and potentially in. So, a lot of uncertainty. Dry air is going to be critical. We could get an upper level low cut off that increases shear much later on down the line. It's still too early to tell. If we take a look at our deep layer wind shear, this is from the 200 millibar level to the 850 millibar level. This is approximately 40,000 feet to 5,000 feet and all points in between. This represents the changing of winds with different heights. So if you've got winds going out of the west at, the lower levels and winds coming out of the east or going to the east in the upper levels, then you would have a higher value of quote-unquote shear showing up on these graphics. We have the euro on the left and the GFS on the right. As we continue to run this forward, we will note that there is a belt of decent shear to the north of the system, but it is not really impacting at all. As we get on approach to the islands, the euro may encounter a little bit of a little bit of shear out of the west. The GFS really doesn't have that because the GFS is back a little slower. If we continue to run this forward just a little bit, we're starting to note a cut off upper level low, especially on the euro, right here. That is increasing the wind shear across the northern portion of the Caribbean and it is causing what would be Gabrielle to open up into a trough. The GFS also has this shear component here, but as we noted with the GFS, it's gotten itself organized long enough to be able to fight off some of this and draw up and eventually get into the southwestern Atlantic. As to where the Euro, it's just not enough to survive. If the storm is strong enough to survive this portion of its track, that's when things really get questionable. If it gets up here, it's in this region to where we really start to question things. We're expecting a pattern change across the eastern portions of the United States. Do we get any type of low-level development down here into the Western Caribbean? As you can see with the GFS and its shear profile here at day 7 is like absolutely not. The Euro, on the other hand, has a small little light pocket as this upper level low continues to retrograde back to the west. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run this to our day 10. And as you can see, that low pressure with the Euro is kind of retrograding and then weakening. And the GFS has a rather decent storm and then a cutoff upper level low here over the southeastern United States that may, depending on what that does, if that is even there, that may offer a little bit of hopefully some protection for the East Coast. I can tell you on the 12C deterministic it did not. So a great amount of uncertainty remains in the models, folks. Being that the stalled out frontal boundary, we've been checking this every night for our friends here along the southeast coastline and the Florida Peninsula. Through 7 days due to the stalled out frontal boundary, as you can see, we do have a decent amount of rain. We have the NOAA blend of models here on the left and the WPC official forecast here on the right. This goes out 7 days, and as you can see, a decent amount of rain, maybe even getting into the coastal communities here along the Carolina coastline as well. If I were to push the NOAA blend of models out to 10 days, that pattern remains. And as you can see, a great amount of rain over the open waters here, but a decent amount of rain, especially along the east coast of the Florida Peninsula and from about Lake Okeechobee southward on the Florida Peninsula. Okay, our nightly MJO outlook, as you can see, we're definitely getting into that enhancement phase of the increased upper level divergence and reduction in wind shear that the MJO or Madden-Julian oscillation brings. And it is forecast to potentially move into phase 2, which is still going to lead to potential activity for our portion of the our portion of the globe. So I am now going to look real quick for questions regarding the Atlantic Basin. See here. Yeah, Amanda, you said it, not me, but there has maybe. Let's see here. Okay, all right. So this is our global tropics hazards outlook. As you can see, we are definitely expecting activity over the upcoming weeks. Christy, you're definitely going to want to go back and watch tonight, especially from about, I just ended the Atlantic breakdown. So the first 35 minutes of the live, yeah. And I go deep tonight. So you'll appreciate the depth in which I went for tonight. Activity as far as our hurricane season is concerned, we're right here. It's all systems go. We're peak season. You're welcome, Christy, and please don't call me sir. Come on now. That's absolutely uncalled for. All right, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific. 91L, James, not 92. Jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we have Kiko, which is an impressive specimen. Uh, Damn annular characteristics on that thing, and the folks in Hawaii really need to monitor this. And we have this pathetic swirl known as Lorena. It's not going to make landfall, folks. I told you last night that there was a chance that it wasn't going to do it, and the southwesterly shear and the reduction in water temperatures have pretty much ended Lorena. We won't be talking about it tomorrow, I can promise that. But all eyes on Kiko, because Kiko is a completely different animal. This is an impressive storm. As we could see with the current satellite view, it's very impressive. But to really get the true appreciation of this, we need to flip it over to the infrared. And if you note, you don't have a lot of rain bands trying to develop along Kiko's periphery. This is definitely trying to take on some annular characteristics. Annular meaning a very symmetrical and round storm. Has a very large central dense overcast, which would then help to protect from potential weakening and intrusions of dry air as it begins its trek more towards the Hawaiian Islands. So, with that being said, folks in Hawaii, you definitely better keep an eye on this one. I would not be surprised if you get some tropical storm conditions if it were to track close to the island. It's still not a guarantee. So, as of the 11 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time, or 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, primary advisory, Hurricane Kiko is located at 13.9 north, 134.6 west, approximately 1,410 miles east-southeast of Hilo, and approximately 1,615 miles east-southeast of Honolulu. Maximum sustained winds, minimal Category 4 at 130 miles an hour. Currently moving west at 9 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 951 millibars. There are currently no coastal watches or warnings in effect. Interest in the Hawaiian Islands should monitor the progress of Kiko. We've been telling you all this for days. Hazards affecting land. Yesterday we didn't have anything. Today we do. Right now, surf generated by Hurricane Kiko. Maybe rip currents. So please, folks, there in the Hawaiian Islands, especially in areas in and around the southeastern or east-southeast facing shorelines, and maybe even the southern shorelines, please exercise caution and follow the local officials' advisories on getting into the water. If we look at the forecast cone, we now have portions of the Hawaiian Islands inside of the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. As you can see here, it is forecast to be a tropical storm by that point in time. That means that we would see some, potential fringe conditions here. With the elevation and the height that we have on these islands, it becomes very concerning because you may have maximum sustained winds at 60 miles an hour at the surface, but you may have maximum sustained winds at 90 miles an hour at, some of these elevated peaks. So it could become... it is highly recommended for all folks here in the Hawaiian Islands to monitor the progress of Kiko as we go forward. We are going to read portions of our discussion tonight with Kiko. We are not going to read paragraph 1. That is about their reasoning behind issuing it at 130 miles an hour for this most recent update. Paragraph 2. Now that Kiko is completing its eye wall replacement cycle, or EWRC, some reintensification is possible. The overall environment remains favorable, with sea surface temperatures remaining between 27 and 28 degrees Celsius, with modest northeasterly shear. Previous forecasts from the interpolated intensity aids were below the official NHC forecast. However, this area of the Pacific has historically had a low bias when it comes to the intensity forecast when tropical cyclones develop a more annular structure, which the current environment is favorable for. As a result, the previous forecast was generally maintained over the first 72 hours, above the majority of the guidance. Beyond 72 hours, southwesterly shear increases quickly, and the hurricane will move over sub 26 degrees sea surface temperatures. This should hasten the weakening towards the end of the forecast, which falls back in line with the intensity consensus. Paragraph number 3. Kiko will ride the southern periphery of a broad upper ridge situated over the northern Pacific, leading to a continued west to west-northwest heading through the end of the week and weekend, with a forward propagation likely to settle between 8 to 12 knots over this time frame. By early next week, the forward speed will increase to 10 to 15 knots, with the hurricane moving a bit more poleward as it approaches the Hawaiian Islands, as an upper trough to the northwest of the islands erodes the western flank of the ridge. This forecast remains close to the consensus guidance and just a little faster than the previous NHC forecast. Now, if we remember, we had our key messages, and Kiko is forecast to approach the Hawaiian Islands during the early to middle portion of next week. The risk of direct impacts from wind and rainfall is increasing. However, it is too soon to determine the exact location or magnitude of these impacts, and interest there should continue to monitor the progress of this storm. You need to look at your National Weather Service office there in Honolulu, and you also need to monitor the National Hurricane Center. Check back at least once a day, if not multiple times daily. If we look at its intensity forecast, they are calling for this to re-intensify back to 145 miles an hour over the next 24 hours. It is then going to start its weakening phase, albeit rather slowly in the initial. By the time we're still forecasting a major hurricane at 72 hours, a Category 1 hurricane at 96 hours, and still a strong tropical storm at 120 hours. But please keep in mind, again, this 60-mile-an-hour winds are at the surface. There are much higher elevations in the Hawaiian Islands, and the winds will increase with height. So what is 60 miles an hour at the surface may very well be hurricane force winds in some of the upper levels of, or the higher elevation and terrain of the islands. So please do not be fooled by this 60, especially for folks that live up higher. If we take a look at, that is Lorena. I don't know why we've got it on Lorena. Or maybe I jumped out of it last night. Oh, I probably did. I probably came back to it. Let's get over here to Kiko, because I do want to pull up the diagnostic. We will get the slider to the last. And similar to what we looked at in the Atlantic, this is the diagnostic model. As you could see, our deep layer wind shear is forecast to increase dramatically. Our sea surface temperatures are forecast to decrease slowly, and our mid-level relative humidity is forecast to drop considerably. Right now, it is an environment to where it's okay, running into around mid to upper 60s. But as we start to get this drier air, in the region and in place, that annular structure could help to hold that off, and the intensity, as you can see, some of the intensities weaken it a little slower, as to some weaken it considerably. So Still some uncertainty in exactly how the annular characteristics of Kiko is going to impact the potential for what the potential for wind and rain and threats there to the Hawaiian Islands. And again, folks, National Weather Service Office, Hawaii. Come to the main page of the National Weather Service Office. Click right there. And for our folks out into the Atlantic, for Invest 91L, the database, we've got them all. So, or at least just about all of them. All the ones that cover even the smaller islands. So, there are different meteorological services that cover different islands. So, please feel free. That resource is there for anybody to use, free of charge. Just make sure that everybody stays safe. That's all we ask for. If we now jump over and put our attention to this pathetic thing called Tropical Storm Lorena, this thing is quickly becoming a naked swirl of clouds out here into portions of the eastern Pacific off the coast of the Baja Peninsula. It is likely not going to make landfall, and though the moisture, as you could see, what we have been talking about for a couple days now, the moisture is getting streamed up into portions of extreme northwestern Mexico, and even getting out here into portions of the United States as well. So please do not drive through flooded roadways, folks. That is the main primary threat from this system. If we look at the forecast cone, if you remember yesterday, it was taking it across and running it across the peninsula, through the Gulf of California, and then dissipating over mainland. If we look at the forecast cone now, it's not going to make it. It's not. If we look at the advisory, currently we're at 24.6 north, 114.8 west, about 155 miles west of Cabo San Lazaro. Maximum sustained winds is now down to 50 miles an hour, moving northwest at 9 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure of 996 millibars. Changes with this advisory. This is always great to see. The government of Mexico has discontinued all warnings. No more watches, no more warnings. Everything is done and over with now. That being said, the threat is still not gone. As we could see, we are looking at rainfall. Bands of heavy rainfall will continue to impact the Baja California Sur and Sonora, Mexico through Friday. Additional rainfall of 4 to 8 inches with maximum storm total amounts of 15 inches are possible across portions of the Baja California Peninsula. Far southeast Baja California and southwestern Sonora into Friday. This will bring the risk of life-threatening flash floods and mudslides, especially in the areas of higher terrain. Elsewhere across Mexico, 2 to 4 inches of rain with isolated totals of up to 6 inches are expected across the remainder of Sonora and northern Sinaloa. These amounts will lead to isolated to scattered instances of flash flooding. Across the southwestern United States, 1 to 2 inches of rain with isolated totals of up to 4 inches are expected across portions of Arizona and New Mexico through Saturday, bringing the potential for isolated to scattered flash flooding. And surf, obviously having a storm 155 miles off your coastline is going to produce life-threatening rip currents and surf conditions. Stay out of the water. Simple. Our discussion. This thing is being absolutely shredded. I'm not going to read a lot into it. As you could see, by tomorrow, within 24 hours, we are probably not even talking about Lorena any longer. Rainfall is the biggest threat. The key messages are noting the flash flood risks of the rainfall. Tropical storm force wind probabilities. We saw yesterday that we had 40, 50, 60%, and now we don't even have it touching the coastline anymore. So, no more threat. No more threat whatsoever. If we look at it on radar, this I laughed at this earlier when, well, not really, but I'm kind of wondering why we're really, spending so much time on it tonight. But it still got folks out here that deserve the same amount of coverage that everybody else gets. But as you can see, there's not a lot of rainfall associated with it. It's all streaming up here to the north and to the east. So it's looking halfway decent for the folks there in Mexico. Now, if we do look at the potential rainfall, as we could see, some pockets getting up here into the southeastern or the southwestern portions of the United States, because this thing fell apart and did not make landfall and the center of circulation did not get over, or at least the surface low did not get over and kind of continue along with the mid-level moisture. The rainfall totals have come down a little bit. The overall flash flooding risk, as you could see, through Friday, Thursday, into Friday morning, we've got this area of slight right here. Saturday or Friday morning through Saturday morning, we've got an area right there. And then through Sunday morning, we have marginal risks, pretty widespread. But otherwise than that, for the folks that may need rain, just please be careful and mindful of the potential of flash flooding. We don't want to see any of that. We don't want to see anybody get hurt. Our quick look at our ensembles out here into the Eastern Pacific. As you could see, some of these ensembles potentially bring Kiko to the north of the islands and may not really leave a lot of impacts there. The Euro has it weakening quite a bit on approach. If we compare that with the Euro AI, as we could see, not so much, dissipating pretty much on approach. I don't really agree with this because of the annular characteristics. If we look at the GEFS, this is the one that I would be more inclined to agree with. As you can see, it maintains a little bit more of that intensity a little bit longer, then starts to weaken, and still keeps it, in that 1,000 millibar range, maybe give or take a couple millibars here or there, as it approaches the islands with a decent signal for the folks there in the islands themselves. All right, jumping out to the Western Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Pipa or Pepa, or however we pronounce this. We all know that I am pathetic when it comes to trying to pronounce names. If we look at it, it is right off the coast of southern Japan here, is currently at about 40 miles an hour maximum sustained winds, and is going to continue out along the southern portion of the main island and then out into the open waters as it kind of increases its overall wind speed as it pulls away from the mainland. All right, that is about all that I have here this evening on the tropics. You're very welcome, Miss Betty. Hopefully I'll be able to participate in the coffee talk in the morning. I've missed it the last couple mornings. I'm trying, I promise, but it's a little early and things are usually ongoing at about that time. So trying to catch it has been a little difficult. So, all right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and sign off here for tonight. We will be back live tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, everybody, stay weather aware. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Have a great night.